Tuesday's attack in Atlanta is just the latest in a wave of violence against the Asian American community. And while the gunman insists he was not motivated by racial animus, 6 of his 8 victims were Asian women. As Stanford professor David Palumbo Liu told the Washington Post, the role of anti-Asian racism and sexism directed at Asian women specifically cannot be ignored here. Quote, to disentangle them is really to do a disservice to the fact that these things are so linked together. Racism against the AAPI community in this country is centuries old, but there has been an alarming increase in targeted harassment over the past year. Anti-Asian hate crimes have spiked 150% since the start of the pandemic, according to an analysis from the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism. And that is only the incidents that we know about. The scope of this problem is overwhelming and unacceptable. Here are just a few examples from the past week that you might not have heard about. Last week, Pak Ho, a 75-year-old Asian man, died in Oakland after succumbing to injuries from an assault and robbery. The assailant was not charged with a hate crime, but a spokesperson for the family says the incident should be seen in the context of the recent increase in anti-Asian violence. Here in New York, the NYPD Hate Crime Task Force is investigating an incident from this past weekend in which an Asian American couple says they were verbally harassed by a woman who told them to go back to China. A warning, this video is disturbing.
Say that racist again. You said communist China?
Well, isn't that where you're from?
No, it's not.
Where are you from?
I'm from the U.S.
And earlier this week, Danny Yu Chang, a 59-year-old man in San Francisco, suffered head injuries after an unprovoked attack. We should note his injuries are graphic and may be disturbing to some viewers. He says he's traumatized by the incident. He's scared to leave his house. And he wants to move out of California, telling our affiliate KNTV that he wants the world to know that the rise in hate is real.
I just want people to be aware of things happening right now, and it's real. And if you don't speak up, who will? So I want them to come out also and speak up if they are attacked. Don't be afraid.
Those are Black Eyes. Joining me now is Amanda Nguyen, founder of RISE, a nonprofit that fights for the rights of sexual assault survivors. She has used her platform recently to bring attention to the rise of anti-Asian racism. Amanda, thank you very much for being here. I think the country is beginning to grapple with what you've been seeing and what you've been speaking out about for some time now, especially after what happened in Atlanta, bringing all of these stories to the forefront. What is important to understand, even though some of these have not been officially classified as hate crimes?
Look, about a month ago, I turned on my camera and I implored people to cover our stories because we are dying to be heard. And I asked people how many more lives need to be killed in order for our stories to be told. And now, weeks later, we have so many more bodies to account for. And I want folks to understand that we can wake up every day and choose what kind of country we are. We can choose what kind of people we are. And it is so necessary in this moment to speak the Asian American Pacific Islander community into the consciousness of this country.
Since the start of the pandemic, the wave of violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders has largely been focused towards women. The majority of victims have been women. Why?
At RISE, our work is intersectional. The majority of the laws that we have passed are on sexual violence, and there is undoubtedly a correlation, a direct actual causation between the sexualization of Asian women bodies and the violence that happens to them. There's a concept called yellow fever, this racial dehumanization, objectification of our bodies. And when you objectify us, you increase the chances for violence. And now we have seen 6 Asian women dead because of it.
It seems like we saw that directly yesterday when the spokesperson for the Cherokee County law enforcement came out and said the perpetrator, the suspect, had a sex addiction, and that's why he went to these places. I mean, what was your reaction when you heard him speak those words?
It's incredibly, incredibly painful because we know, at least I do, as someone who has lived in this body and this skin, as someone who identifies as a woman for so long. And I think that there have been so many Asian women who have come out in recent days and attested to their experiences of sexualization, dehumanization. And when they heard that, they heard someone who doesn't understand our experiences, who isn't here to help us.
What's the solution?
Empathy absolutely is the solution here. We have been, as a community, systematically erased from the narrative, from the federal government. There was a study in 2009 that showed that some federal agencies don't include us in their definition of racial minorities. Political polling rarely ever polls our community about what we care about. To our history, in education, in schools, people need to know about what the AAPI community has done and the history of our grief and also our excellence, to our stories that are being told in Hollywood and in the news. In order for people to start speaking up, I think it is so important that they educate themselves. And you can do that. I think a lot of people right now are reaching out and saying, hey, well, I want to be an ally, but how do I best do that? And I just want you to know that you can do something as simple as reaching out to your AAPI friends and say, I'm here for you. I can't begin to understand what you're going through, but how can I help?
Amanda Nguyen, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the advice.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.